Thank you. You identify significant issues with the FISA application process for conducting surveillance on Carter Page. And before this investigation, were you aware of problems with the FBI's use of the FISA process?
I was not personally, although I will say we have done reports, as you know, Senator, for since 9/11, my office,
Well,
on
you
these
can't
issues.
sit here and tell us that these errors only occurred with regard to this FISA application process.
We've identified problems in the past. I will say we've never done a dive into one as deep as this.
As have a number of us, by the way, Senator Lee and others of us. We understand that there are issues relating to the FISA process. And in fact, after you pointed out the errors, et cetera, the director acknowledged your findings, and in fact, he is moving ahead to make improvements to the FISA process, and as he put it, to make the FBI a much stronger institution.
That's correct.
Would you agree that it is a major decision to seek authority from a FISA court to conduct surveillance on an American?
I agree.
If FBI officials were politically motivated and wanting to conduct surveillance on a particular American, wouldn't the decision to seek FISA approval be a point where political bias could affect the process?
Could.
Yes.
Yes.
Actually, that would be a pretty good time for any kind of political bias to manifest itself. But here you found no evidence of political bias in deciding to seek FISA approval.
We did not find such evidence.
When you released your report on Monday, both the Attorney General and Mr. Durham immediately issued public statements that challenged the findings in your report. Attorney General Barr stated, quote, "The Inspector General's report now makes clear that the FBI launched an intrusive investigation of a U.S. presidential campaign on the thinnest of suspicions that, in my view, were insufficient to justify the steps taken." End quote. Can you point to the page or pages in your report that found that the FBI launched an intrusive investigation on the thinnest of suspicions that were insufficient to justify the FBI's actions?
We concluded that there was sufficient predication.
Would you consider words like the thinnest of suspicions, intrusive investigation, neutral words to describe your work?
I'm going to let others answer for their own comments and stick to what we've
Yes,
written
you've
and
said
what
that
we've
everybody's entitled to characterize your investigation, but you know what? I think we all know what constitutes a fair characterization. I would say those are not fair. Yesterday, Attorney General Barr went on TV to challenge the validity of the findings of your report and suggested that his own FBI agents may have acted in, quote, bad faith or with improper motives, and that it was premature to conclude otherwise. These insinuations are inconsistent with your report. And one justification that he gave for disregarding the key finding in your report was that, unlike the investigator he handpicked, Mr. Durham, you could not compel testimony. You interviewed more than 100 witnesses for your investigation. In your report, you note you were unable to compel testimony from two people, Glenn Simpson and Jonathan Weiner. Were these the only two people for whom you couldn't compel their testimony or who wouldn't testify or talk to you?
Those were the only two people that we asked to interview that turned us down.
And do you think that the fact that you did not interview these two witnesses undermine the conclusions in your report that you found no documentary or testimonial evidence of political bias in opening the investigation or seeking FISA authority for Carter Page?
I don't believe they undermined any of our conclusions. It would have been good to have their evidence like it is normally.
Do you think that the findings in your report are inaccurate because you lacked the authority to compel witnesses?
Not in this instance, no.
In April 2019, Attorney General Barr told Congress, quote, "I think spying did occur," end quote, when talking about the FBI's investigation of the Trump campaign's ties with the Russian government in the 2016 election. And yesterday, Attorney General Barr reiterated that the Trump campaign was clearly, I'm quoting him now, clearly spied upon. He claimed the FBI's investigative actions, which you discussed in your report, constitute spying. And the word spying carries, I would say, negative connotations, don't you think?
You know,
I mean, it sounds like law enforcement is doing something they're not authorized to do, that they would spy on us.
And that's why we use and only rely on the word that's in the law, which is surveillance.
And yet we have the highest law enforcement person in our entire country using a word, not just once, but twice, using the word spying. So clearly your report found that the FBI's investigation was for an authorized and with an adequate predicate, and you would not characterize that as spying. In fact, you would not use such a word in your report.
We don't use that
You did
in
not.
our report.
Do you think questioning the motives of your staff as possibly involving bad faith or accusing them of spying would be demoralizing to your people?
Let me put this, I would not speak to my folks about them acting in that manner.
Do you think that's a really
haven't
great
seen
way
that
to
either.
characterize what you all do in your professional capacity? I think that's a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
You know, so describing
Point
your
taken, though.
law enforcement staff's investigations as intrusive and based on the thinnest of suspicions also casts aspersions on the professionalism of your people, and I think that is probably also not terribly edifying or supportive. Did the Attorney General provide you with any evidence to support his claim that the FBI agents were spying?
In terms of evidence, we didn't get any evidence from the Attorney General. We did meet with Mr. Durham, had a discussion with him. But we, as I said, are standing by our conclusions.
Does it bother you that you have the Attorney General using words like spying to characterize what the FBI did under an authorized process?
You know, as Inspector General, I'm going to stick to what we do and what we've said and not try and guess the motives or ideas or thoughts of anyone else out there as to
Yeah,
how
I don't
they
see you
do it.
jumping up and down in glee with use of such words.
not.
Let me go on. On November 21st, Dr. Fiona Hill, the former National Security Council Senior Director for Europe and Russia, warned that Russia has, quote, geared up to repeat their interference in the 2020 election. Even as we speak, that's what Russia is doing. She also warned Congress against promoting the fictional narrative that Ukraine rather than Russia interfered in the 2016 U.S. election. These conspiracy theories, she said, clearly advance Russian interests. FBI Director Wray stated on Monday that the FBI has no information that would indicate that Ukraine tried to interfere in the 2016 presidential election. And when we talk about interfere, we're talking about the kind of systemic, government-sanctioned interference with our election process that Russia engaged in. And there's no way that Ukraine engaged in that kind of systematic interference. So in all of the documents that you reviewed, 100 witnesses, did you find any evidence that contradicts FBI Director Wray's statement that the FBI has no information that indicates Ukraine tried to interfere in the 2016 election?
We didn't see any such evidence, but I emphasize that wasn't
Yes, I know.
the purpose of our
But you know what?
review.
You would think that you're looking through 1 million documents. And, yeah, there
Fortunately,
might have
not
been
me, but the
something.
team, right?
There might have been something there that referenced that maybe Ukraine was engaging in the kind of systematic interference that Russia did. I know that Senators Leahy and Klobuchar asked you about this, but I want to make it clear. Is there anything in your report that calls into question the conclusion of the Mueller report that Russia interfered in the 2016 presidential election in a sweeping and systematic fashion?
No.
And of course, we all know that the Mueller investigation resulted in 37 indictments and 6 convictions of Trump associates. Is there anything in your report that calls into question Special Counsel Mueller's conclusion that the Trump campaign not only knew about Russia's election interference, but they encouraged it and expected to benefit electorally from it?
No.
I know you receive a lot of requests from Republican and Democratic members of Congress to do certain investigations, and I've been among those. I realize you have to take certain factors into consideration because you only have so many resources to conduct all these investigations. And one of the requests that I and my colleagues asked you to investigate was whether Attorney General Barr's handling of the Mueller report was misleading and whether he demonstrated bias in dealing with the Mueller investigation. In light of the factors that I'm sure you consider, will you take another look at the request that I and my colleagues sent you to see whether you're able to investigate any of them?
So on that, Senator, first of all, I'd be happy to come up and meet with you and talk about it with you in person. Let me say I've had conversations with some of the members of the committee about this issue. It's the letters asking us to look at the conduct of senior lawyers at the department directly implicate Section 80 of the Inspector General Act, which prohibits me from looking at conduct of lawyers in their capacity as lawyers. Senator Lee has sponsored a bill that passed the House unanimously, bipartisan, full support, pending here. Several members of the committee have co-sponsored it. That provision prevents me from undertaking investigations of misconduct by senior department lawyers, or actually any department lawyers, just
Well,
to be
this
clear.
is one time when I think, agree with Senator Lee in that needing to make that kind of change to enable you to make the kind of investigation that we're asking you to make. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And again, I'd be happy to come up and talk with you about it further.
Thank
Senator.
you.